Kazakage quietly sat alone on a flight of concrete stairs, slowly eating a few pieces of bread. Every bite was small, almost mechanical, as his thoughts wandered elsewhere. The meal filled his stomach just enough to keep going, but it did little to ease the emptiness weighing on his heart. He had been telling himself that this was enough to survive, enough to make it through another day. Yet deep inside, he knew it wasn't. Not far away, several children watched him from a distance. They whispered among themselves, assuming the lonely man sitting on the stairs must be homeless. His worn clothes, tired expression, and simple meal only reinforced what they believed. Kazakage paid them no attention. He had grown used to people judging him before ever speaking to him. Then a cheerful voice suddenly echoed from above. Kazakage. His eyes widened. Very few people called him by name like that anymore. Slowly, he looked up the staircase. A young woman was making her way toward him with a bright smile. Me? She nodded without hesitation. There you are. Kazakage stared at her in confusion. She was undeniably beautiful, with gentle features and a warm expression that somehow felt strangely familiar. Yet no matter how hard he searched his memories, he couldn't remember ever meeting someone like her. The woman stopped a few steps away. Try to remember who I am. He frowned. I'm sorry. I don't think we've met. Instead of looking disappointed, she simply laughed. We used to be friends. Friends? Seeing the confusion on his face, she offered another clue. We built a secret base together when we were kids. The words struck him instantly. A forgotten memory slowly surfaced. A small wooden hideout, old planks stacked together, two children working side by side with childish determination. The blurry image became clearer. He remembered a little girl excitedly asking him to build a table inside their secret base. Then she begged him to draw a treasure map so they could pretend they were searching for hidden treasure. Back then, he had quietly agreed without complaining. The little girl had jumped with excitement, celebrating as if she had just discovered real treasure. Another memory followed. The smile, the laughter, those bright eyes. Kazakage's expression finally softened. Karen? The young woman smiled even wider. You finally remembered. For the first time in years, Kazakage found himself looking at someone from his childhood. It's been a long time, Karen said warmly. The last time we saw each other, we were still in elementary school. He silently observed her. The energetic little girl from his memories had grown into a beautiful young woman. Time had changed almost everything. Except her smile. Karen tilted her head. I thought you'd be more surprised. Kazakage answered with his usual calm expression. I am. She laughed. No, you're not. You're still as quiet as you were back then. Her eyes shifted toward the small travel bag beside him. What's with all the luggage? Kazakage hesitated before answering. It's a long story. She waited patiently. Eventually, he let out a small sigh. I've been staying at an internet cafe lately. Karen blinked. An internet cafe? He rubbed the back of his neck awkwardly. I'm trying to save money. It probably looks strange. I have my own reasons. Karen's smile slowly disappeared. She hadn't expected that answer. Spending a night at an internet cafe wasn't something people chose unless they had nowhere else to go. Without saying anything, she looked carefully at his exhausted face. The dark circles beneath his eyes, his worn clothes, the quiet resignation hidden behind his calm expression. He looked like someone who hadn't truly rested in a very long time. Before Kazakage realized what was happening, Karen suddenly grabbed his hand. Come with me. What? I'm taking you somewhere. He instinctively pulled back. Wait, Karen, I appreciate it, but I still have work tomorrow. And I can still afford the internet cafe. So I'll be fine. She stared directly into his eyes. No. Her answer came immediately. You won't. Kazakage was caught off guard. She tightened her grip slightly. I can't ignore that tired look on your face. You're coming with me, Karen. No arguments. Before he could protest again, she gently but firmly pulled him away. For the first time in a long while, someone refused to let him face everything alone. After walking together for some time, they finally arrived at an old house, standing quietly at the end of the street. Kazakage looked up at the building. Its wooden walls had clearly aged over the years. The paint had faded. Some parts looked weathered. It almost seemed forgotten by time itself. Karen smiled. Welcome home. He looked at her. Home? Well, my home. She opened the front door and stepped inside. Kazakage followed cautiously. The interior matched the outside. Old wooden floors creaked beneath every step. The furniture looked worn. The walls carried years of history. Just as he was about to comment on its condition, I know. Karen smiled sheepishly. You're about to say it's old. He awkwardly nodded. Maybe. She gently ran her fingers across one of the wooden pillars. This house belonged to my grandmother. She passed away not long ago. I inherited it after she was gone. Her smile became quieter. It's much too big for someone living alone. But I could never leave it. Every room reminds me of her. Kazakage silently listened. Suddenly, the worn house didn't seem run down anymore. It felt alive. Every scratch, every creaking floorboard, every faded wall carried someone's memories. I understand, he said softly. Karen's bright smile returned. Then she suddenly clapped her hands. Wait here. Huh? You only ate bread earlier. I'm making dinner. He immediately shook his head. You don't have to. I'll be fine. She ignored him completely. Nope, you need real food. Without giving him another chance to refuse, she walked straight into the kitchen. Soon, the comforting sounds of cooking filled the old house. The gentle rhythm of chopping vegetables. The quiet sizzle from a frying pan. The rich aroma of homemade food slowly drifted through every room. Kazakage sat silently in the living room. It had been so long, he had almost forgotten what a home sounded like. For reasons he couldn't explain, the old house already felt warmer than anywhere he had stayed in months. The delicious aroma drifting from the kitchen gradually filled the old house. For Kazakage, it was a scent he hadn't experienced in what felt like forever. He quietly sat in the living room, listening to the soft sounds of cooking. Every clatter of a pan and every gentle stir reminded him of something he had lost long ago, a place that truly felt like home. A short while later, Karen walked into the room carrying several freshly prepared dishes. Dinner's ready. She placed everything on the table with a satisfied smile before taking a seat across from him. Kazakage stared silently at the meal. It looked far more luxurious than anything he had expected. Fresh vegetables, steaming rice, hot soup, and carefully prepared side dishes filled the table. He hesitated. Karen immediately noticed. What's wrong? He lowered his eyes. I don't want to trouble you anymore. She folded her arms. If you don't eat, I'll feed you myself. Kazakage blinked. You're serious? Very, he knew from the determined look on her face that she wasn't joking. Letting out a quiet sigh, he finally picked up his chopsticks. He took one careful bite, then another. Within moments, he stopped trying to eat politely. Before he even realized it, he was eating with genuine enthusiasm. Karen couldn't help smiling as she watched him. So, how is it? She leaned forward expectantly. My grandmother taught me this recipe. Kazakage paused. After swallowing another bite, he quietly answered, It's delicious. His voice carried a sincerity that surprised even him. I can't remember the last time I had a home-cooked meal this good. Karen's face immediately brightened. I knew it. She proudly puffed out her chest. My cooking is pretty amazing. She laughed playfully. At this rate, I'll make a wonderful wife someday. Kazakage simply continued eating. He didn't know how to respond to that. Seeing his awkward silence only made Karen laugh even harder. As they enjoyed dinner together, Karen suddenly remembered something she had heard around the neighborhood. "Oh, right, I heard something about you." Kazakage looked up. "What?" Karen hesitated for a moment before continuing. "People were saying you got married." He nodded once. "I did." She continued carefully. "And they also said you had a huge fight with your wife. That she kicked you out of the house." Kazakage quietly placed his chopsticks down. His expression remained calm. "I don't have a home anymore." Karen looked confused. He continued, "We divorced." Silence filled the room. Karen's eyes widened in complete disbelief. "You divorced?" He simply nodded. "Yes." Karen remained speechless. After a long pause, she forced a small smile. "Life really is unpredictable." She meant it as encouragement. But hearing those words, Kazakage couldn't help thinking they sounded surprisingly light compared to everything he had lost. Still, he didn't correct her. There was no point. Once dinner was finished, Karen stood up and gathered the dishes. "I'll wash these." She smiled warmly. "In the meantime, go take a bath. You've had a long day. You should warm yourself up." Kazakage immediately shook his head. "I couldn't possibly." "You've already done enough." Karen smiled knowingly. "You've always been terrible at accepting kindness." She gently pushed a towel into his hands. "So stop arguing." He gave a small bow. "Thank you." As he walked toward the bathroom, one thought quietly crossed his mind. "I hope I didn't make her uncomfortable by talking about my divorce." Meanwhile, Karen silently washed the dishes. The water flowed steadily as countless thoughts filled her mind. A violent husband? No, that couldn't be true. Not the Kazakage she remembered. The quiet boy who had stayed with her whenever she didn't want to go home. The boy who built their secret base. The one who always helped without expecting anything in return. No matter what the rumors said, she couldn't believe them. A tiny smile appeared on her face. Maybe this was the chance fate had finally given them. Inside the bathroom, Kazakage slowly looked around. The room was clearly old. The walls showed their age. The floor had begun to wear down. Even the bathtub looked like it had been there for decades. He smiled bitterly. "I shouldn't complain." He quietly stepped into the warm water. The comforting heat slowly relaxed his tired muscles. For the first time in months, he felt himself beginning to unwind. Then, his mind drifted backward. Back to the day everything fell apart, his newly built home. The house he and his wife had worked so hard to purchase together. He remembered finding her sitting quietly. She looked pale. Worried, he approached. "Are you feeling okay?" She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she looked away. Then she quietly spoke. "I can't do this anymore." He frowned. "What do you mean? I want a divorce." His entire world stopped. What? He couldn't understand. Everything had seemed normal. There had been no warning, no argument, no explanation. What he never realized was that she had secretly started recording the entire conversation. Days later, an official document arrived. It was a divorce notice. The accusation written across it left him speechless. Domestic violence. Kazakage stared at the paper in complete disbelief. He had never raised a hand against her. Not once. Yet those few words destroyed everything. His reputation, his home, his future. People stopped looking at him the same way. His co-workers whispered behind his back. Neighbors avoided him. Even strangers judged him after hearing the rumors. From that moment forward, talking to people became harder than ever. Crack. A loud sound suddenly echoed through the bathroom. Kazakage immediately snapped back to reality. A large crack spread across one side of the old bathtub. His eyes widened. Seriously? He quickly climbed out before anything else could happen. After drying himself, he walked back into the living room. Karen looked up immediately. Finished? Instead of answering, Kazakage lowered his head. I'm sorry. She blinked. For what? I accidentally damaged your bathtub. Karen looked surprised. Then, instead of getting angry, she let out a sigh of relief. Oh, I'm just glad you weren't hurt. Kazakage looked up in surprise. That's your first concern? Of course. He lowered his head again. I'll leave tomorrow. I'll replace everything. It may take a little time, but I promise I'll pay for the damage. Karen quietly stared at him. Then she asked something completely unexpected. Do you remember our promise? He froze. Our promise? She smiled gently. The one we made in our secret base. Another forgotten memory slowly resurfaced. The little wooden hideout. The handmade table. The treasure map. Then Karen's younger voice echoed inside his memory. When we grow up, let's build a house full of everything we love. And let's live there together. Back then, without hesitation, he had answered. Okay, the memory disappeared. Kazakage looked at Karen. I remember. Karen smiled softly. Then she spread her arms toward the old house around them. Let's make this our new secret base. His eyes widened. You don't have anywhere to go, and I live here alone. So, let's renovate this place together. We can slowly turn it into the home we once dreamed about. She looked directly into his eyes. What do you think? Kazakage remained silent for a long moment. Finally, he answered honestly. I'll definitely replace the bathtub. As for living here, I need a little more time to think. Karen smiled. I figured you'd say that. But I'll wait. For the first time since losing everything, someone wasn't asking him to leave. Someone was asking him to stay. In Part 3, the story moves into the emotional heart of the series as Kazakage faces cruel rumors at work. Karen helps him renovate the house, they rebuild their childhood dream together, and he finally reveals the painful truth behind his divorce. The next morning, Kazakage arrived at work carrying more than just his usual responsibilities. Before starting his shift, he searched online for the price of a replacement bathtub. When he found one that cost around 20,000 yen, he quietly let out a sigh of relief. At least replacing the damaged tub wouldn't be impossible. Unfortunately, that was the easiest problem he had to deal with. As he walked through the office, he could feel the familiar stares following him. The rumors about his divorce had spread to nearly everyone. Most people believed the accusations without question. To them, the story made perfect sense. Kazakage was tall, heavily built, and rarely smiled. His quiet personality only made him seem more intimidating. Many of his coworkers had already decided what kind of person he was without ever asking for his side of the story. While organizing documents, he noticed a female coworker struggling to reach a book on the highest shelf. Without thinking, he walked over. I'll get it. She looked surprised. Thank you. He easily reached the book and handed it to her. Although she politely thanked him, the nervous smile on her face quickly faded into visible fear. She stepped back almost instinctively. Kazakage silently watched her walk away. Am I really that frightening? The question lingered in his mind. Maybe everyone saw him the same way. Maybe his appearance alone was enough to make people uncomfortable. Then another thought surfaced. Karen, she never looked afraid. Not once. She spoke to him exactly as she had when they were children. She laughed with him. She trusted him. But if she ever learned the official reason behind his divorce, would she start looking at him the same way everyone else did? That thought quietly weighed on his heart. The weekend finally arrived. As promised, Karen invited Kazakage back to the house. If we're really going to renovate this place, she said with a smile, we should start with the bathroom. He nodded. Replacing the cracked bathtub was his responsibility. The two of them spent the morning moving furniture, clearing old materials, and preparing the room for renovation. Karen picked up a heavy hammer and confidently stood in front of the old bathtub. Leave this to me. She swung with all her strength. Clang! The hammer bounced right back. The bathtub didn't even crack. Karen blinked. Seriously? She tried again. Clang. Still nothing. She stared at the bathtub in complete confusion. What is this thing made of? Kazakage couldn't help smiling a little. May I? Karen handed him the hammer. He looked at her seriously. Step back. It could be dangerous. She obediently moved away. Kazakage tightened his grip. With one powerful swing crash, the old bathtub shattered into pieces. The room fell completely silent. Karen covered her mouth. Wow. She looked at the broken pieces, then back at him. You're amazing. Kazakage suddenly felt uneasy. His incredible strength had always been one of the reasons people found him intimidating. He quietly looked toward Karen, expecting at least a hint of fear. Instead, her eyes sparkled with admiration. You're so dependable. I feel safe with someone this strong around. He blinked. Safe? She nodded enthusiastically. Of course. For just a brief moment, a tiny sense of pride appeared inside him. But he quickly pushed it away before it could grow. There are still plenty of things left to do, he reminded himself. After cleaning away the broken pieces, they unpacked the new bathtub. Together, they carefully carried it into the bathroom. Then they stopped. It doesn't fit. The new bathtub was slightly larger than the available space. Karen scratched her head. What now? Kazakage looked around the room. We'll probably have to return it. Karen remained quiet for a moment before another idea crossed her mind. What if we make the room bigger instead? He turned toward her. You mean break the wall? She nodded. It should create enough space. Kazakage hesitated. This house belonged to your grandmother. Are you sure you want to change it? Karen gently rested her hand against one of the old walls. I treasure my grandmother's memories. She smiled. But this house also holds memories of us, our secret base, our promise. If we're building a new future together, I think she'd be happy. Kazakage looked at her for several silent seconds. Then he smiled. You're right. Without wasting any more time, he carefully removed part of the wall. Piece by piece, the bathroom slowly became larger. Once there was enough room, they worked together to lift the new bathtub into place. Even after installing it, there was still plenty left to do. They adjusted the entrance, installed a new doorway, measured the plumbing, checked every connection. Karen explained that a complete bathroom renovation would eventually require a professional contractor for the water system. Kazakage nodded. We'll ask a specialist before going any further. Karen smiled. Good. As they worked side by side, Kazakage found himself stealing occasional glances toward her. She wasn't pretending. She truly wasn't afraid of him. No matter how hard he looked, he couldn't find even the smallest trace of fear in her expression. By the following day, the renovation was finally complete. The difference was incredible. The old, cramped bathroom had completely transformed. Warm wooden pattern walls gave the room a cozy atmosphere. The spacious bathtub looked brand new. Sunlight poured through the window, making the entire room feel brighter than ever before. Karen slowly looked around. It's beautiful. She smiled from ear to ear. I can't believe we actually did it. Kazakage looked around proudly. Neither could he. Without thinking, he suddenly lifted Karen into the air. We did it. His rare smile spread across his face. It turned out even better than I imagined. Karen froze in complete surprise. Hey, put me down. Only then did Kazakage realize what he was doing. His face immediately turned red. I am sorry. He carefully placed her back on the floor. Karen looked away awkwardly. After spending the entire day working, she was covered in sweat. Being lifted so suddenly had completely caught her off guard. The room became strangely quiet. After several moments, Kazakage finally spoke. Karen, I need to tell you something. His expression became serious. The official reason for my divorce was domestic violence. Karen's eyes widened. He continued before she could respond. I never hit her. Not once. But I understand why people believe it. He looked down at his own hands. I'm bigger than most people. My face isn't exactly friendly. Even simple physical contact can make people uncomfortable. He took a slow breath. When I picked you up just now, I realized I might have scared you. I'm sorry. He forced a bitter smile. Maybe it would be better if we didn't live together after all. It would probably be safer for you. Karen slowly stepped closer. Then, she gently placed her hand over his mouth. Stop. Kazakage looked at her in surprise. What are you talking about? She lowered her hand and smiled warmly. You're quiet. You're awkward. And yes, you can look a little scary. But I know who you really are. She closed her eyes for a moment as another childhood memory returned. When we were little, my family wasn't a happy place. There were days I didn't want to go home. I stayed with you instead. She smiled softly. You never chased me away. You simply asked if I wanted to help build our secret base. You stayed with me until it became dark. I even heard your parents scold you because you always came home late. Her eyes met his once more. You helped me through one of the hardest times in my life. That's the Kazakage I know. And that's the person I trust. His shoulders slowly trembled. No lawyer had believed him. No coworker had believed him. Almost no one had ever asked what really happened. Yet Karen never doubted him for a second. He slowly sat down. I sold my house. Almost all of the money went toward the settlement. I couldn't even bring myself to tell my parents. Karen quietly listened. That's so unfair. Those simple words carried more comfort than anything he had heard in years. After a long silence, Kazakage finally asked the question that had been weighing on his heart. Can I really stay here? Karen's answer came without hesitation. Of course. She smiled brighter than ever. Let's make this house comfortable for both of us. Our new secret base. That evening, after finishing another long day of work, Karen happily soaked in the newly installed bathtub. She stretched comfortably. This is perfect. The larger bathtub was far more relaxing than the old one. Just then, Kazakage's voice came from outside the bathroom. I'm leaving my towel here. Karen smiled mischievously. A playful idea crossed her mind. She slightly opened the bathroom door. Want to join me? Kazakage froze. What? His face instantly turned bright red. Karen giggled at his priceless reaction before quickly changing the subject. Anyway, what should we renovate next? She leaned back in the warm water. I'm thinking about opening up the kitchen so it faces the living room. And we definitely need to fix the entrance. You hit your head there earlier. Kazakage laughed quietly. You're right. We'll take it one step at a time. Karen nodded. There's no need to rush. As the evening settled over the old house, the dream they had once imagined as children slowly began to take shape. Their secret base was no longer a small wooden hideout hidden in the woods. Now, it was a real home. A place they would rebuild together. One room, one memory, and one new beginning at a time. This concludes the current arc while setting up the next chapter of Kazakage and Karen's story.